So then we are back with more understandings from the Aramaic English translation of the word. And there is a section in the Renewed Covenant in Colossae. It states a very interesting portion where then Shaul learned how to be contented. It's truly very encouraging these days with so much going on at the same time. And he also speaks of then the stability of the faith, and then he had his days, but through these areas he began to learn. Though he was sometimes in prison, he was beat up very badly, he began to understand the importance of maintenance of his relationship with his Creator. So then he begins, for instance, let's say on the 2nd chapter and the 10th verse. And in him, in the mashiyach, you are also complete, because he is the head of the principalities and authorities. These names he is speaking of his rulership in the earth. There is another understanding comes from this area, because there are those divisions and subdivision of the evil spirit world. Ephesians, the 6th chapter, the 5th chapter, they are explaining areas of the spiritual realm, and the understanding from the divisions of it is in the 6th chapter. Okay? Principalities, powers, rulers, potentates. Okay, but those he is explaining in relation to the principalities and authorities in the earth, in relation to his position as ruler. Not that he is in charge of those countries or principalities and power. That's not the point. You must understand the characteristics of the spiritual warfare. The Mashiyach is not the head of any principality, any power, any rulers, or any potentate. Those are the areas of the evil kingdom. He is not in charge of evil kingdom. What he's saying is his position as ruler meant anytime another group was formed in a camp, they could go anywhere they wanted to form another holy land. But they themselves, they don't have the power over the other nations. They must remain in their camps. They teach and they preach and they exercise the ministry of Ruach HaKodesh, but they don't lord over the countries. The Gentiles, they lord over themselves. As we previously shared, the Hebrew people are not to be involved in the world's trade. Therefore, principalities, powers, and authorities, and the such, is in reference of who he is. He is not ruling other countries. He is not ruling principalities and powers, and potentates and powers, because those are the dark places. He's not in charge of any dark place. He's in charge of the light. The light is found in the camps. So then he is complete. Complete is the word stated of the camp. And the camps then are complete. And then he states, as therefore you have received the Mashiyach, walk in him, strengthening your bases and building up yourselves in him and establishing yourselves in the faith, that's for the Gentiles, that you have learned from the set apart people. And you should then be thankful, abide in thanksgiving. So then he's explaining, then be aware, or else you then receive males made doctrines and philosophy. Feel love for thinking. They begin to rationalize on their own what they can do to make it to work. And by vain deceptions after the doctrines of the males, by the rudiments of the world, and not by the Mashiyach. And then in whom inhabits then Elohim. And in him you are also complete, because he is the head. He is the Mashiyach. But then he is giving a reference of those then who are in the camp. In the camps they are complete. In terms of the Gentiles, we are being made tzaddik. Because the complete word means having the ministry of Ruach HaKodesh. However, the understanding also refers, then he himself makes us complete in him. So then, and in him you were then circumcised with the circumcision made without hands. We are complete in the Mashiyach, but then there is the perfection side. So a person then, to be absolutely complete and perfect, a person must then speak the Hebrew language, the holy language, and then be invited in a camp for further teaching, so then they can function. Then they are absolutely complete. However, he's saying, then you understand that also you are complete because he is in charge. But then you have to rule yourselves. You have to rule the evil in you, in every person, each of us. We must to rule our own evils in being obedient to the renewed covenant as Gentiles. Then we are complete in him. But then these understanding are then areas of the person as personal. It's a personal understanding from each individual. We are complete in him. However, we understand that we get our teachings from the Hebrews at the gates. And each camp then is complete. They don't have to have faith. They don't have to have grace. They don't have to have mercy. We do have to have those. So every time you hear the word complete, in this case, he's making a reference of the Mashiyach being the ultimate authority. Then we are complete in him. But the understanding is in a personal level, because we are going to be always involved with more teaching. If we were completed in him, we would not have to have any more teaching, would we? So he is speaking of himself as the ruler, his rulership in our lives. But not complete to the point of not having any more instruction given. That's why then he states he is the head of the principalities and authorities. But those, he's speaking of those people, then they are saved in those places. But he doesn't rule over those places. He's speaking of a condition in the life of the believer. So layers of understanding can't be made flat and placed on a table and do what you want with it. It's not the point. So there's much more coming up.